Welcome in, Nittany Nation. We are at one of the coolest spots in Hoppy Valley, one of the best breweries in Pennsylvania. Antifragile Brewing Company right here on Calder Way in downtown State College. And we are coming to the end of the obligatory Penn State quarter century team celebrating the best Nittany Lions in the last 25 years of Penn State football. This is it, Tengwall, the first team offense, the best of the best.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me on again, Booch. A couple guys I played with, so I'm excited for this list. Should be a good one.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. We're going to take this time to shout out our sponsor, the Hoppy Valley Brewers Fest, coming back to Penn State on July 19th. You know the drill. Address to get your tickets is on the screen. It's hoppyvalleybrewersfest.com. We hope to see you there. And I think you probably by now know the drill. If you don't, go back and watch the other videos. Second team defense and offense and our first team defense. Great players all. But for review, our panel will just give it a few guidelines, rate guys at the position they played last at Penn State, take into consideration only their collegiate career, not the NFL. So let's roll right into it. We are talking about the wide receivers. And we mentioned it, Tengwall, when we were talking about the second team offense. This has been a challenging spot for the Nittany Lions over the last few years. But when you look back over the last 25 seasons of Penn State football, the two dudes who made this first team, they earned those spots. They're some of the best players of the last 25 years of college football, not just Penn State.
Absolutely.
So without any further delay, let's get to our first team quarter century wide receiver.
Whether Penn State's offense was in desperate need of a game-changing play or simply had to keep moving the sticks, Jawn Dotson was the reliable target who kept the Nittany Lions on schedule. Though he is probably remembered best for the insane degree of difficulty on his highlight reel receptions, it was Dotson's deceptive speed and precision as a route runner that allowed him to accumulate the heady career statistics that helped land him this spot as one of our first team wide receivers.
What's the first thing that comes to mind for you when you think about Jawn Dotson?
Looks small, plays big. Ooh. Single-handedly took Shaun Wade, Ohio State's corner, that was looking to be a first-round cornerback. Before going into 2020, he was like, hey, he's the best corner in college football. Jawn Dotson, like back-to-back, like one-hand grabs like this over top of Shaun Wade and made him like a sixth-round pick. And I don't know, I think he's already out of the NFL or something. But Jawn Dotson, soft-spoken, doesn't say a lot. I loved playing with him. Instantly, what comes to mind is the Maryland game where he just took over down in College Park, Maryland. It was fun to watch. It was fun to be a part of. But he is truly the silent assassin that just doesn't say much, but he will go up top. And that was my favorite part of his game, is that we didn't necessarily have a large receiver in that offense, but Jawn Dotson filled that role of being the jump ball guy that could go up and bail out Sean Clifford when he needed it.
Yeah, when I think about, well, first of all, I'll say this about Jawn. When we talked about the second team, we talked about guys who, overcame some challenges earlier in their career or maybe didn't show that they were going to be the type of player who would earn consideration for a spot on a list like this. If you go back to the early years of Jawn Dotson, I think a productive player, not necessarily somebody who you would have pinpointed as that's maybe somebody who belongs as one of the two best receivers the last 25 years of Penn State football. But I will tell you, he got to the end of his career, I voted him top two. It was the way he came on, and you talked about it, performance in big games, degree of difficulty catches, and just reliability. When I think about what you want out of a top wideout, it's sort of like we talked about when we discussed Tony Hunt and Evan Royster. You want reliability. When Sean Clifford needed a play to be made, Jawn Dotson was the guy.
He was never dropping it. It felt like anytime a ball was up here, it was just boom, down, in, every single time. It was really fun to play with Jawn Dotson. And overall, just a fantastic teammate.
And I must also mention a Super Bowl champion with the Philadelphia Eagles. But let's keep it rolling. Our tops overall, our other first-team wide receiver. Let's go.
Allen Robinson was the total package at wide receiver. Tall, fast, technically skilled and clutch. He excelled both in beating the brakes off opposing DBs running routes and in the open field, and in breaking their hearts in contested catch situations. He stuck with Penn State through scandal and sanctions and went on to become the focal point of Bill O'Brien's offenses over his final 2 years in Happy Valley. Decorated seasons that rank him as the best of the last 25 years and among the greatest to ever play the position at Penn State.
It's a weird way to say it, but it is almost a pity that the totality of Allen Robinson's career gets condensed down to the catch at the end of the 2013 Michigan game.
That's all I think about, Booch, because as being recruited, I saw it over and over on every TV screen. But I think it was important. What Allen Robinson, we were just talking about jump ball wide receiver with Jawn Dotson. Well, that really was Allen Robinson, obviously at a much larger stature, but someone that, Hackenberg and company was able to rely on. And I think just pure numbers looking at it, I would put him probably number one.
Yeah. I think he has a great argument to be included with Bobby Ingram as one of the top two to ever do it at Penn State. And that catch under those circumstances in that game, that was not the peak. That was just emblematic of who he was for the program. The crazy thing about Allen Robinson, to me, not a very highly touted recruit. In fact, if Penn State is not recruiting Rob Bolden, I don't know that we ever see Allen Robinson and realize this is a guy who's worthy of a scholarship offer.
There's so many great stories like that. You go to the coaches go to watch someone at high school and their teammate, they say, hey, who's that kid over there? And that was Allen Robinson. And thank God that we did that.
And you talk about all-time program greats on the field. There's a special category in my mind, and a lot of Penn Staters' minds, reserved for those guys who stuck it out through the imposition of the NCAA sanctions in 2012. And the fact that A-Rob was part of that group that said, no, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying here. I'm sticking with Penn State. And then he did what he did on the field, to me, makes him that much more legendary.
Absolutely. And also someone, talking collegiate, but in the NFL for a year or two was possibly the number one wide receiver, top three wide receiver in the NFL when he was with the Bears for a little bit. So not only do it in college, but also in the NFL booth.
Yeah. And again, we're not talking NFL careers when we talk about qualifications for this team, but worth mentioning, that dude had one of the most brutal runs of starting NFL quarterbacks to deal with. But again, to be mentioned by me in the same breath as touchdown Bobby Ingram, that means you did some special stuff when you were wearing the blue and white. We keep the pass catchers together. We're going to talk about our first team offense tight end next. So let's go to it.
Few college football players at Penn State or anywhere have made more out of the decision to come back for one more year than Tyler Warren. An elite athlete whose measurables and natural talents would have made him a draft pick in any offseason. The already prolific tight end chose to bypass the pros and return for his senior season. And what a season it was. As the Nittany Lions made their first trip to the playoffs and advanced to the semifinals, Warren emerged as the star of new coordinator Andy Kotelnicki's mad scientist offense, running, catching, throwing, and even snapping his way to becoming Penn State's first ever Mackey Award winner.
So it's interesting when you're trying to do something like this, trying to balance recency bias with, you want to get a panel of folks who remember the totality of the 25 years. And so sometimes you get voters who are biased more towards the players who played, a decade or two ago. And so to me, when I look at this, Tyler Warren getting this spot is reflective of the fact that our panel recognized, even though he just graduated and moved on, he belongs in the conversation with best tight ends ever at Penn State. So again, earned this spot.
Best tight ends ever, best players ever at Penn State, Booch. Psycho T, Whiteout Warren, whatever you want to call him, just a superstar. And someone that did it the right way.
Whiteout Warren.
Whiteout Warren.
All right.
That was more of a locker room one.
Okay.
But if you look back, the Whiteouts, he always showed up. Even back in 21, when he wasn't that big of a part of the offense yet, that was when we put in against Auburn. him at Wildcat quarterback. A lot of people don't remember there was a 2-year break of Tyler Warren at Wildcat quarterback. We did it it was just the goal line package in 21. We brought it back. Kodal Nicky dusted off the old playbook, and we brought it back. And it was, just getting to play with Tyler. He's my neighbor, one of my best friends. Couldn't be a better guy. Only cares about football, fishing, and that's about it. And you can just tell when he plays the game, there's a reason why we call him Psycho T, because off the field, one of the nicest guys. He'll kissing babies, taking photos. But when he gets on there, not only is he one of the best pass catchers, playing quarterback too, snapping the football, but he loves to run block and he buries dudes. And I think that was a huge part of not only just him being a great pass catcher, but just what he did for the run game here at Penn State. And I think we talked about how good the offensive line is now. Tyler Warren is a huge part of that, Booch.
Great point. When you look back over this trio of pass catchers we just talked about, I mentioned before with the second team offense, Gesicki and Warren really kind of ran away with the votes at tight end. Wide receiver, anybody you think should have been in the mix?
Oh, man. No, I feel like we got it. I feel like the voters got the wide receivers right, honestly, Booch. I felt like, and Booch quizzed me on this before, and I said, yeah, I think that's right. I think we're looking good. I think we talked about Derek Williams a little bit, but I just don't think D. Will had the numbers to get there over any of those guys. I like where we're at. I do think with tight end, obviously Tyler's one. I think Gesicki should be two, but there was a conversation maybe to put Freiermuth at instead of Gesicki there. But I think the voters killed it right here. I think they did a great job.
Wisdom of crowds. I agree for sure. I'm glad you brought up Derek Williams. Definitely deserves to be mentioned. One of the most important recruits in Penn State history. And Deshaun Hamilton too. Another one of those guys who really grinded it out through a tough period of Penn State football history and was integral to keeping the program afloat and then turning it around in the mid-2010s. So we're going to take a break here at Antifragile Brewing Company, and we're going to be back with our first team offensive line. Stay with us.
Mark your calendars for July 19th when the Hoppy Valley Brewers Fest returns to Penn State. Meet the brewers and enjoy exclusive pours from over 75 breweries from across Pennsylvania and beyond. Revisit your favorite places, reconnect with friends, and make new memories at the Hoppy Valley Brewers Fest. Learn more and get your tickets today at hoppyvalleybrewersfest.com.
Welcome back to Antifragile Brewing Company here in downtown State College. We appreciate you being here with us as we have just enjoyed this off-season exercise and appreciating some of the best Nittany Lions of the last 25 years of Penn State football. We really want to thank the Hoppy Valley Brewers Fest, which is coming back to Penn State on July 19th. Get your tickets at hoppyvalleybrewersfest.com. We talked about it, Landon. Because of the construction going on inside Beaver Stadium, there's going to be a unique opportunity to be right in the middle of it all. Right outside Medlar Field, in view of everything they're doing to the Beeve, and with beautiful sight lines to Mount Nittany, enjoying excellent beer from over 75 breweries, a lot of them sourced right here from Pennsylvania, in Happy Valley in summer. What's not to like?
And you're training for the season, getting drunk in the parking lot, right outside of Beaver Stadium. Why not get ready? It's training camp for you guys. Make sure you're there.
I like that angle. Training for the season. Very good. Get your tickets. We hope to see you there. So appreciate the folks at the Hoppy Valley Brewers Fest for helping make this obligatory Penn State quarter-century team possible. And now, again, we're going to go to where it all happens at the line of scrimmage on the offensive front. This is the first team offensive line on a quarter-century team. We're going to start with the offensive tackles. Let's go.
A superstar in the classroom and an All-American on the field, Olu Fashanu embodied everything Penn State fans hope for in a Nittany Lion. Yet another player who defied expectations to extend his collegiate career by an extra season, Fashanu was an immovable, unbreakable brick wall on the line of scrimmage, critical in helping to elevate the offensive line from a consistent weak point to the overall strength of Penn State's offense. Levi Brown should be remembered as an invaluable member of one of Penn State's most important classes. Brown's willingness to embrace a switch from the defensive side of the ball and his game-changing excellence upon making the move anchored an offensive renaissance that helped the Nittany Lions capture a conference title and restore the program's winning ways.
A lot of representation from the team that brought Penn State football back in 2005, which I love. Levi Brown was a big part of that.
Absolutely. And originally recruited as a defensive tackle, makes the change, and then an integral part of that, like we said, that 2005 team, that offensive line. We mentioned there wasn't a lot of passing going on. We had to be good up front to be able to run the ball at will. It's hard when the opposing team basically knows you're going to run the ball and you still do it successfully. Levi Brown, a big part of that, Booch.
And when you think about that backfield, when you got Tony Hunt and his bruising style, and then the dynamism of Michael Robinson, his ability to push the ball downfield to all those young, speedy wideouts, but then also just tuck it and run. You needed big horses up front and just protecting his blind side. That was Levi and really a key, certainly underappreciated cog in that offense that finished number 3 in the nation. So I want to talk now about Olu because I mentioned earlier when we were discussing Tyler Warren. Is it recency bias? Are you correcting for it? Are you overcorrecting for it? This is one of the best I've ever seen do it at Penn State.
I'll say the best offensive lineman ever to step foot on the field for Penn State football.
I'm not going that far.
I'll say it. I'm putting it out there. Like I said, once again, one of my best friends, him and Olu Fashanu and Tyler Warren roommates. That's like one of the greatest like rooms in the Nittany apartments that has been blessed. That is the greatest room ever. But Olu Fashanu, another guy, 3-star guy, came in, was developed, shout out once again to Philip Troutwine, and just stuck with it. And I'll never forget, it was so fun, that spring ball going into 2022. And Olu didn't play a lot in 21. It was Rasheed Walker at left tackle. And we got to watch that spring ball of Olu where it was like, oh my God, this guy's like spectacular. And it was like the secret. It was like, people didn't really know. Starting out 2022, we play Purdue, and, Olu gives up, no sacks, no pressures, no nothing. And everybody's, kind of starting in the media to talk about it. And we're like, we all knew this. We all knew this guy was going to be really special. And then decides to come back for a 4th year. When he, went in the first round, he could have went in the first round the year before, said he wanted to get his degree, by the way, in blockchain management, just stupidly smart. I played against Olu in high school, went to the top high school in America, just through and through, a true Penn Stater, someone that is going to represent us well down the road. And like I said, we're talking collegiate ball, but I think Olu is also going to be one of those guys that's 10, 15 years as just the New York Jets left tackle. So someone that did it the right way. And I'll say it again, best offensive lineman ever to step foot on the field for Penn State football.
In college football, when you talk about kicking off a run of success at a position group, you always need a superstar who helps you do that. I am going to optimistically say that I think maybe we will look back on Olu as the guy who helped do that for offensive line at Penn State. So continuing our discussion of offensive linemen, we're going to go our first team interior offensive line, guards and center. Here you go.
The highest compliment that can be paid to any member of this team is to say he would blend in seamlessly in any era of Penn State football. And with his grit, talent, and mean streak, Rich Ornberger fits that bill. Equally adept at run blocking and in pass protection, the reliable Ornberger helped form the solid foundation of Penn State's Big Ten champion, spread HD offense. Another member of State's vaunted 2008 offensive line is our center, A.Q. Shipley. Like Ornberger, Shipley was a mauler whose combination of skill at the position and nastiness at the point of attack made the Lions' dual threat assault a nightmare for opposing defensive players and coaches. Few players have ever more fully embodied the ethos of Penn State football than John Urschel, a largely unheralded recruit who worked his way to earning all-conference recognition. A loyal Iron Lion who scoffed at the calls to abandon the program in its darkest hour. And an academic whiz who used his time as a college football player as a springboard to even greater success off the field.
Man, I love this group. I love every single one of these dudes. Just great.
my favorite story about John Herschel is they're in the meeting rooms, the coaches, and they put dots next to the player's name when they're free, when they have class. A green dot for the hours they're free, red dot for the hours they have class. There's a yellow dot next to John Herschel. And the coaches say, what's the yellow dot for? And they say, Coach, that means that John Herschel is teaching a class. It doesn't get better than that. I mean, just smarter, probably we're talking about Olu being one of the greatest offensive linemen ever to step on the field. John Herschel might be the smartest Penn State football player to ever step on the field. And obviously was a dominant run blocker, was a huge part of that offensive line, keeping that tradition going. And it was just overall someone great, a great mentor, and another person that just, he's Penn State through and through, Booch.
Yeah, you talk about great Penn Staters to cut short their NFL careers, like from a different era. Mike Reed, defensive tackle, decides he wants to just go win a Grammy Award. John Herschel decides he wants to go to an Ivy League and go teach mathematics.
Real quick, he first NFL player ever to have a deal with a calculator company. I got that from his agent. First
Amazing.
one ever.
Amazing. A Paterno recruit who played here at a time when we really needed to tell every critic to get bent. Absolutely the embodiment of the grand experiment. Rich Ornberger is a guy who gets forgotten a lot because, you're familiar with the way in which offensive linemen are not appreciated.
We're always
by the
forgotten,
rank and
Booch.
file
It's all right.
fans. Yeah. But Penn State's 2008 offense, the spread HD, for those who remember, that thing ran on success at the line of scrimmage. That was one of the best offensive lines I have seen at Penn State. And Rich Ornberger was a big part of that. And on top of that, one of the funniest dudes to ever play football here.
Oh, yes. My gosh. If you haven't seen his interview with Julian Edelman, you have to watch it. He is hilarious, does a great job nowadays. But like you said, that 08 offensive line doesn't get talked about enough. And I will say, though, I do think maybe this year could be the best offensive line since that 08 season, Booch.
Crossing our fingers. And so we talked about Steph Wisniewski as a second-team center who was a guard on that team. With the other guard, Rich, is the left guard on this team. The center, also from that squad, A.Q. Shipley. Both Rich and A.Q. having a lot of success in the media world now after football. But A.Q. Shipley's our only Remington Award winner here at Penn State.
Just a straight-up baller. And everybody knows that to have a truly elite offensive line, and like I said, 2008, probably, we're saying if for this season, but outside of 94, 2008 is the next best offensive line from in Penn State history. And you have to have a dominant center. They're making the calls at the line. They're keeping the offensive line organized. They're doing all the calls. And obviously that was A.Q. Shipley. And once again, another hilarious guy and making a lot of money, showcase himself on the Pat McAfee show.
Now, I do need to warn you, when the comment section gets filled up on this one, like you're going to have a lot of angry folks from the 1980s with all this talk about best offensive line in Penn State history. So apologies, but by all means, feed the algorithm, write the comments. When we come back on the other side, we're going to talk about two phenomenal running backs, two of the best of all time, not just the last 25 years, and great quarterback as well. So don't go anywhere. It's the obligatory Penn State quarter century team from Antifragile Brewing Company. We'll be right back.
Mark your calendars for July 19th when the Hoppy Valley Brewers Fest returns to Penn State. Meet the brewers and enjoy exclusive pours from over 75 breweries from across Pennsylvania and beyond. Revisit your favorite places, reconnect with friends, and make new memories at the Hoppy Valley Brewers Fest. Learn more and get your tickets today at hoppyvalleybrewersfest.com.
And we're almost to the end of it. We're down to the last three players, two running backs and a quarterback. Our first team offense on the obligatory Penn State quarter century team. I'm a little sad, actually, Tengwall. I've had a lot of fun doing this with you and Horn. And I'm a Penn State football history guy. I love going back and appreciating all the great talent we've had the privilege to watch as Penn State football fans. And one of the great things about living in your college town is you get to watch the transition from season to season, from group to group, watch new legends arise and inherit a legacy from those who came before. One of the best places to continue the conversations like we've been having here is right here at Antifragile Brewing Company on Calder Way.
Best beer, best cheeseteaks in town. Doesn't come close, Booch.
Really appreciate Antifragile supporting the obligatory pregame show and being a great host venue for this program. Penn State has, Landon, an unbelievable history at the running back position. I mean, you go back decade after decade after decade. You can't tell the story of college football in any era without referencing great tailbacks at Penn State. And we've got an unbelievable pair of them to talk about right now. So let's get to it. The first of our first team running backs.
No one who witnessed Larry Johnson's senior season will ever forget it. And if you weren't there, you cannot fully understand. While the elder son and namesake of State's great defensive line coach had clearly earned his shot as the team's lead tailback, it still came as a shock when LJ spent the entire year absolutely decimating opposing defenses on his way to over 2,000 yards rushing. Johnson piled up the postseason awards like he did yards, setting program single-game and single-season marks that stand to this day.
The man made his legend almost exclusively in one season, his senior year.
LJ2K, one crazy son of a gun, but damn it, we love him, Boots.
We do love his social media, do we not? We're big fans.
Him and Lamont Wade going at it. You got to love it. I mean, it's a great combo, Boots.
No question.
But I mean, just dynamic, explosive. I mean, there's no other way to put it. I mean, just took teams to the woodshed, just running the ball. I love watching the highlights. He was doing it when I was basically, I wasn't even born yet. I was still a twinkle in my dad's eyes. But I love watching the highlights, bitch.
Penn State, as I said, has such a great legacy at the position, and LJ just slots in right with the best of the best. And he had to wait his turn because even though he got on the field early, I mean, I still remember him lighting up Arizona in the Pigskin Classic in the 99 season opener as a true freshman.
Arizona was good at football.
Preseason voters thought they were good at football. They did not look good when they came to Hoppy Valley, I will tell you that. But he had to share carries with Eric McCoo and Omar Easy, both very good running backs in their own right, through the first 3 years of his career. And so when he finally got the chance to be the featured back in the 2002 season, a year when we had a pretty good, upperclassman offensive line, pretty dynamic offense, he just took it to another level. And you talk about those 2,000 yards that he accumulated, he did that while getting pulled out of entire halves of football games. Finished third in the Heisman voting, maybe robbed a little bit. If Joe was less classy and would have just left him in, I easily, Landon could have had 2,500 yards. So now we're coming to it. If you don't know who is in the number one running back spot, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know why you're watching this video, frankly, but here he is. Number one overall first team running back.
What more can be said about the incomparable Saquon Barkley? Like LJ's 2K campaign of 2002, Barkley's career in blue and white truly had to be seen to be believed. The TV broadcasts of the time and the highlight reels that will live forever never fully captured the captivating electricity that pulsed through the air when Barkley did something that defied belief, which for Saquon was a common occurrence. Committing to Penn State at a time of transition, helping to lead a comeback campaign on the field, placing the program back in the national spotlight with his play, and doing it all while being an honest-to-God decent human being. The more Saquon Barkley's time in Happy Valley recedes into our past, the more his legend will grow.
The great, must I say it, Super Bowl champion with the Philadelphia Eagles, running back Saquon Barkley. How, Landon, could Rutgers have ever found room for him in their crowded backfield?
One of the greatest tweets to ever grace the land of Twitter was that tweet. Saquon Barkley, dynamic, explosive, one of the most fun college football players of all time, still accounts for, I'll go over 50% of the jerseys in Beaver Stadium on any given Saturday. Definitely deserves a little bit of maybe NIL back pay for that one. But Just made it fun to be a Penn State fan. You think of the Iowa game in 2017, his Rose Bowl run. I mean, there's so many memorable moments. Fiesta Bowl run. We're still watching him on the Eagles. We still love him, and probably the greatest ambassador.
How about it?
To Penn State football. I mean, he's always around. Him and maybe one other guy we're going to see at the end of this list. But preaching what Penn State means, what Coach Franklin means to Penn State. How can you not love Saquon Barkley?
Yeah, you can't talk about the guy without talking about what a great dude he is, which is amazing because he's one of the best players at his position in this era of college football. He is now redefining it in the NFL. And yet you keep coming back to this is exactly the type of player you want to be an ambassador for what it means to be a Penn Stater, not just a Penn State football player. So that's really, really cool. And when you think, again, about the era in which he committed to Penn State and his decision to come here and be part of that, early James Franklin recruiting class, and then what that team did in 2016 and 2017 to set the table for everything that has come and we hope will follow. Men, when you put the whole package together, it's hard to deny him a spot on the Mount Rushmore of Penn State football, let alone on the quarter-century team.
I think the greatest running back, clearly, to ever do it at Penn State. And once again, the most fun, Booch. Oh, you're shying away. Let's take a second real quick. Let's not talk quarter-century. Just throw it out there, Booch. Who would you pair up against Saquon Barkley all time, real quick?
Saquon Barkley, because he belongs in this conversation, super high praise. He belongs in a discussion with Kajana Carter.
Absolutely.
With Kurt Warner. With Lenny Moore, a guy people don't think about, NFL Hall of Famer, great player. Showed up Jim Brown when they played Syracuse back in the day, and Lydell Mitchell. So it's a great conversation. To me, when you talk about where Saquon Barkley slots in the all-time list at Penn State, it just shows off the embarrassment of riches we've had at the tailback spot. So yeah, great blessing for Penn State fans to have been able to watch this guy sport the blue and white.
And now Eagles fans.
Yeah. I got in my obligatory Eagles reference, and that's it. So now we're going to wrap it up with the quarterback spot and a guy who really does deserve to be saving the best for last. So let's go to our first team quarterback. Here he is.
If you had one game, one drive, one snap, a single chance to risk it all on one turn of pitch and toss, who would you rather trust than Trace McSorley, the consummate winner? McSorley powered the resurgence of the early James Franklin era as much through his toughness and indomitable will as his throwing and scrambling. While stars on both sides of the ball were critical to the 2016 Big Ten title and the resurgence that followed, none of it happens without McSorley, the field general, leading the charge.
Winner.
That's the word, Booch?
That is the word.
The wizard. Wizard. He did it all back now in Happy Valley, helping out Drew Aller and company. No one is more Penn State than Trace McSorley. Went unbelievably viral with the Trace McSorley song.
Shout out Matty Fresh.
Shout out Matty Fresh, absolutely friend of the show. He's everything you want in a quarterback, but he's undersized. People doubt him and just kept, as you said, winning. Always found a way, Booch.
Here's a question. Is he James Franklin's most important recruit to Penn State?
Yes. If you don't have that quarterback on that team, I don't think it matters as much. I don't think those receivers that you have, I don't think Mike Gesicki matters as much. Saquon Barkley was going to be Saquon Barkley. But if you don't have that quarterback, that leadership out of Trace McSorley, that 2016, 2017, those teams aren't even close to the same type of teams, Booch.
When you think about the qualities James Franklin recognized in Trace as head coach at Vanderbilt, went to 4 championships, won 3 of them as a high school player in Virginia. He saw this guy, like I said, is a winner. Most of the country is projecting him as a safety. I think he's going to be a quarterback. And to carry over that belief and say, I'm going to let you come up here into the big leagues. I'm going to let you follow me to Penn State. Believe you can be a quarterback. When you think about the dynamism he brought to the offense. And the way that married up with what Joe Moorhead loved to do schematically, to me, two of the most impressive numbers on Trace McSorley's resume is that as a quarterback, he's number 22 all time at Penn State. We just talked about all our great running backs in rushing yards. Number 20, he's at the top 25 in rushing yards as a quarterback. He's number 7 in rushing touchdowns. And the dude was still magic when he put the ball in the air. Just exactly what you needed as a leader and a playmaker at the moment you needed him most.
I used to, just a kid from Briarwood, by the way. I used to go to the Maryland games when we were at Maryland. When I was a recruit, I would go to Maryland and say, hey, I want to come to the game. Didn't really want to go to Maryland. So I could watch the Trace McSorley-led Nittany Lions beat Maryland by 70 points.
Thank you for wasting their money, by the way.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Maryland. Appreciate that. But it was just fun to watch. I think there was no better way to finish this thing off consecutively than Saquon Barkley and Trace McSorley.
Yeah, couldn't do it any other way. And I love the depth chart. Trace and Michael Robinson. God, how lucky are we as Penn State fans to have been able to watch all these great players? And the beautiful thing is, it's not going to stop. This was 25 years. You go back 100 years before that, there are so many great ones, and there are going to be many more. And so it's been a real pleasure to walk down memory lane with all y'all over the last 4 weeks. Thanks to Antifragile Brewing Company for having us, for filling up our glasses, and for feeding us with those Uncle John's cheesesteaks.
So good. I guess we'll see you in 2050.
That sounds great. And I believe the Hoppy Valley Brewers Fest will be going into year 52 at that point. So get in early, get your tickets now. Until we talk to you next, take care of yourselves and each other. We are.